Hi, this is Heather White, Programs Coordinator of Artists and Communities at the Andy Warhol Museum. Today we are exploring 2 ways to make flower crafts in the spirit of Julia Warhola, Andy Warhol's mother. Julia was an artist in her own right. Here at the museum we have several of her pen and ink drawings as well as Andy Warhol artworks that feature her handwriting. We have several accounts from Andy and his brothers referring to the tin can and crepe paper flowers that Julia would make when they were growing up here in Pittsburgh. For both of these activities, you're going to need a tin soup can and some floral foam. I like to push the floral foam into my can, but you can also cut it and fit it in. For the first bouquet, you will need some sturdy sticks, some colorful aluminum cans, a pair of sharp scissors, some gardening gloves or some work gloves to protect your hands, and a hot glue gun. Use your scissors to puncture the can. Cut your can in half. Use your scissors to cut slits down the sides of your can. These slits are going to form your petals. Now bend your petals back to form your flower. In one account we have of Andy talking about Julia's flowers, he says, "Oh God, yes, it's true. The tin flowers were made out of those fruit cans. That's the reason why I did my first tin can paintings. You take a tin can, the bigger the tin can, the better, like the family size ones that the peach halves come in. And I think you cut them with scissors. It's very easy, and you just make flowers out of them. My mother always had lots of cans around, including the soup cans." Once you have bent back your petals, you can shape them by rounding the edges or cutting them diagonally to make sort of a spiky petal. At this point, you should have several flowers made and you can attach them to the sticks with your hot glue. You may need to use quite a bit of glue to get the sticks to stay. I also experimented with cutting circles out of additional cans and placing them in the middle of my flowers to create some unique color combinations. When you are done with your flowers, you can begin to arrange them in your floral foam. Your final product can have a few flowers or a whole lot like my bountiful bouquet. For the second flower activity, you will again need a soup can with floral foam inside, a bunch of crepe paper, preferably a variety of colors, some floral wire or some thin bendable wire. For some of my flowers, I actually use zip ties and that worked well. And also a pair of scissors. Lay your crepe paper flat and fold over on one end about an inch. Now repeat this process going back and forth like you're making an accordion until you have the entire thing folded up. It should look like a fan. You can now take your scissors and round off the edges to create your petal shapes. Now take whatever wire you're using and wrap that wire around the middle of your crepe paper. At this point, I kind of wrap my crepe paper around my wire to kind of pull out the petal shapes, and then I slowly go in and try to separate the pieces of crepe paper away from each other. So pulling the bottom ones down and then the middle ones out and then the top ones up. This takes a little practice and you might rip your crepe paper a little bit, but that's okay. You usually can't tell in the end. If you have more than 3 pieces of crepe paper stacked up, this process might take a little longer and might be a little more difficult. But with a little bit of practice, you can make some really beautiful looking flowers. Andy's brothers, John and Paul, and some of their schoolmates and friends recollected that Julia cut empty cans into narrow vertical strips, bent them outward, and affixed colorful crepe paper to the ends. So while we're using floral wire or some sort of wire, and Julia used tin cans to sort of affix her crepe paper flowers to, I can imagine that her flowers might have looked similar. So once you have a handful of these crepe paper flowers, you can take the end of the floral wire or whatever wire you're using and stick it into the floral foam to create an arrangement. While we have no photographic images of the flowers Julia made, we can imagine she made a variety of different kinds based on what Andy and his brothers are recorded as saying. We hope you at home are also inspired to create some flowers of your own.